Thanks for watching this portion of Garage Logic today on our YouTube channel, and hit the subscribe button if you wouldn't mind. And also thanks to our friends at Everest Men's Health for sponsoring this. Go to everestmenshealth.com today to see if they can help you with better energy and better health. And catch the Garage Logic podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Literally, as we're coming on the air, it is breaking right now, around the noon hour on Feb 10, 2022. Both Minneapolis and St. Paul have lifted the vaccine or test mandate at the restaurants and bars.
Oh, so it's over.
Mm-hmm. Masks are still required.
Okay.
But it started January 19, and there's been a significant decline in cases. It's not plausible that was brought about by this mandate.
Of course not.
Nationally, we learned Democrats across the country are scrambling to reverse course on COVID-19 restrictions as this year's midterm elections loom. With the notable exception of the White House, Democrats at every level are signaling their support for returning to normal as polls show Americans are weary of coronavirus restrictions, which Republican states have already done away with, or have largely done away with. Let me stop right there. You are telling the American public, who you've been kicking around for 2 years, that your decisions are completely political in nature.
Exactly.
Which we all knew.
But there's nothing scientific about this.
No, Joe, you got to trust the science.
We got to follow the science. Wait a minute, the elections are coming up.
Hold up.
Wait a minute. Something ain't right. According to a recent poll by Monmouth University, 70% of Americans say it's time for the country to move on, and a decreasing number of Americans support COVID-related mandates. President Biden's approval ratings on handling COVID, once a strength, are also now underwater, with 43% approving and 53% disapproving, according to the poll. I found myself today thinking, based on that brief experience I had yesterday when I had an appointment and I walked in with a cloth mask and was told, it's not the lady's fault, I was told, well, we don't really favor cloth masks, so here's a paper one. Okay, that was fine. But, we were told that wearing a mask of any type was better than not wearing a mask at all.
We were also told not wearing a mask was A-okay, too.
And now cloth masks are discredited.
Yeah.
In favor of these, they can't cost more than 2 cents a piece, these paper ones.
Let's face it, the paper mask mandate is also political.
The whole thing is...
It has been. It has been.
So I was talking to Reavers before this show. How do you reconcile us getting shoved around for 2 years only to discover that virtually everything we've been told has been reversed or altered? How do you reconcile that with the fact that so many people did die from this disease? You can't just say, yes, Reavers, you have our hand up.
John's going to yell at me, so I'm going to preface that. John, just heads up, okay?
I already know what you're going to say, and I'm going to yell at you.
Because we keep hearing the people that died from COVID and the people that died with COVID.
Mm-hmm. Well, believe me, I've been sold on the idea that I don't want to get it.
None of us do. But
okay, it's real. The way it's been handled has been surreal.
I will die on this hill. I will. That's fine. But
John, do you disagree with what he said? I
completely.
Well,
yeah.
But the other, here, I'll let you go after I say this.
Because I'm on the Reavers side on this one,
okay.
Johnny.
The other part of it is, I firmly believe, and I'm willing to be proven wrong, I firmly believe that every man, woman, and child on this planet has already had it at some point.
I'm not going to jump on that one.
I'm
but,
just saying.
They probably will.
After 2 years, I largely think it has been unavoidable for anyone.
Okay, Trump, let Johnny talk.
well, then, okay. By that theory, then in 1918, you believe the same thing. Everybody had it.
Probably.
Had the Spanish flu.
Probably.
Well, I think history proves you wrong. We'll go by
drifting?
that.
We're drifting?
Yeah, let me try to keep us on a starboard tack here.
Good luck.
Is that left or right?
I'm just, that'd be right. I'm just,
right.
I'm just continually amazed that yesterday at noon, it was very necessary to show a proof of vaccine or a test to enter a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But today at noon, it's not.
You're good.
Right.
Well, there's no science behind that.
No.
Is it pushback from people? Is it the Canadian truckers?
Well, what about the lawsuit that they filed in Minneapolis? Did that have something to do with
Well,
it?
they lost it. Judge didn't even hear it.
No, it's
It
true.
had nothing to do
It's
with
true.
it.
What about the numbers that we talked about yesterday that have gone down, 43% in the last 2 weeks? Don't you think that had something to do with it?
Yeah.
I don't think, they just arbitrarily said, we'll get rid of them now.
Yeah, but John, do you think the numbers went down 43% because you had to show a card at a restaurant?
No, of course not.
Well,
No.
no.
I
No,
think the
but if
numbers going down, it's a natural evolution, isn't it?
Yeah. And as long as that happens or continues, you're going to lose whatever things are out there to try and stop you from spreading.
But this discussion right here is why I think a fair amount of people just simply don't believe what they've been told and haven't for some time.
Does the group here believe that masks do we still all believe that masks are effective?
I do not.
You go back to the best thing I heard about masks is if you can smell through it, it's doing you no good. In other words,
With an airborne virus.
in other
yes.
words, if someone
Who said that? Did Giuliani say that, or did somebody else say that?
somebody with credentials, but
Okay.
you shouldn't be able to smell anything with the right mask.
Really?
Yep.
With an N95.
I guess. But in St. Paul, Carter won't let go of that. He's going to still require masks. Indoor public places, publicly licensed places in St. Paul, you have to still wear your mask. I don't know what Fry's going to do.
Well, early on, I knew somebody, and then later on, we all have known somebody who is always masked, always diligent, always very careful, and have also isolated. And they got the COVID.
Yeah, they're going through it right now at a house owned by the kid I used to have.
Yeah, and I guarantee you, those people are very diligent.
Yeah, and they're vaccinated. And well, he's the kid that came up last year for Christmas and found a house to stay in by himself. I'm not kidding.
I know.
I'm going to do that from now on for all gatherings.
I mean, we had to feed him outside. I'm not making any of this up.
Did you throw him a plate under the jail
Well,
cell?
I would take a plate out.
Yeah.
And Such, when they all come to my house, I'm going to go rent a house somewhere else
Right,
for myself. That kid is brilliant.
It worked out that one of the CP's relatives owns a property in St. Paul, and she wasn't in town, so he just stayed there.
But to defend that decision, that was back when we didn't know what we know now.
Right.
Right? I mean, there was still so much unknown back then. So no one can question that decision because he obviously had his reasons.
No, it was almost a year. It was 8 months in, at least, wasn't it? It was Christmas.
Well, I suppose. But still, there was still concern, don't you guys think? Because we didn't have vaccines by then.
Once again, we're going to come about now and head up the port side. That's left.
That's the left side.
Come about.
Can we all? I'm interested if John can be in agreement that you don't find any political motivation for these sudden decisions.
I would definitely find some political motivation. Yes. No, yeah, that's not, I don't think that's in question.
But and if that's the case,
But
doesn't
don't
that-
you think originally there were political motivations, say, from the right
Yes.
in the whole thing? I mean,
Yeah, well, getting the ball rolling on the vaccine started with President Trump. He was our guy, and the left, and that's how political it was and still is. The left said,
Yeah.
"No way, we're not taking anything."
well, and the right, starting with the president, said, "Don't wear a mask; you look like a wimp." So,
right?
Right. Jesus, everything's just all over the map on this.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But there's no question that we have been manipulated to a certain degree.
So, to what advantage of the people doing the manipulating? If it's political
Control.
Well, do you want me to get very dark?
Yes, I do.
Please, yeah, that's why I ask.
Oh, is this the Kardashian theory?
No,
Oh, darn it.
no.
Oh, wait, that's our last show.
I haven't refined the linking. It could be a task for historians in the future. But there has to be a link between the COVID and the cities closest to the country's tallest buildings falling into a kind of dystopian atmosphere. I haven't. You remember that COVID started before the death of George Floyd.
Yes, it did.
Months before.
2 months. 2
So,
months,
so
yep.
the
2 months,
so what's
yeah.
happened as a result of the death of George Floyd cannot completely be blamed just on that incident. What's happened to these cities has happened since the beginning of COVID. I haven't made the link yet.
But the downward spiral, and I'm just going to use Minneapolis as an example, started way before COVID did.
Well, now
COVID may have accelerated it.
Think of when was the Super Bowl here?
2017, or sorry, February of 2018,
All right. When was the Final Four here?
the following year.
What year would that be? Help me.
2019.
2019.
April of 2019, I
April
believe.
of 2019.
I better double check. Hold on.
See, I disagree with Chris. I think we were kind of maintaining. We were on a plateau.
Yeah,
so
I'm trying to get
speak.
there. I'm trying to get there.
It was 2019, April 2019.
April 2019. 1 year later, there was signs of decline. That's before George Floyd. So somehow, and I'll have to go on a long walk on the Garage Logic Service Road of Life, somehow getting masked up, told not to gather, social distancing, had to play a role in what has happened to the cities of this country.
No question.
But I can't, I'm not there yet. I haven't been able to identify what the role is other than people become dispirited, having become dispirited. And
It was
we're not there.
people being told what to do, and then that resulted in two different groups. People that went along with it and believed it and bought into it, and people that did not. And that's where the really rapid breakdown, it really started rolling there. I want to take back what I said about Reavers being wrong. You, at the time, and through the teens, were working
That's exactly where I was
downtown.
going.
You
Yep.
were working in a bar, and you increasingly, before the show, would not shut up about the latest BS and nonsense that you had witnessed. And it seemed like every week you had another story about the deteriorating climate in downtown
behavior of
Minneapolis.
people. So-
and that was before COVID. So
Yep.
I take back what I said earlier.
No, that's where I was going to explain myself, because I started working there part-time in 2015. But
Yeah.
after Labor Day weekend of 2015, when they opened up this place, I knew
Yeah,
the
and
guys
it was
very
all
well. It was great.
T&A and
It was-
booze and parties.
it was
and everything
fantastic.
was awesome.
It was fun.
Before work, after work, driving home, everything was fun.
No
But
issues. You know when it turned. Sorry, Joe. Whenever weekend Prince died, that was the last, in my opinion, the last really great weekend in downtown
I
Minneapolis.
can't make a Prince connection, but I would make this connection. As of April of 2019, when Minneapolis hosted the Final Four, the city was rocking.
I was there for the championship game. It was
was
fantastic.
rocking.
vibrant.
It was fantastic. My dad and I went. I got my dad, Fran, retired deputy sheriff from Rice County, to go outside to a restaurant in downtown Minneapolis. It was fantastic.
Fine.
We had a blast.
And then COVID hit
the following year.
January 1, let's call it, 2020. So 6 months later,
Yeah.
COVID hits.
And we watched it sweep
Eight
Europe
months later.
before it got here. And things were very dire. Asia, Europe, and all the, before it got here.
So COVID had a role as yet undefined. I have yet to define the role. Help me, newsman.
But
COVID had a role in these cities so rapidly falling apart.
Well, it was the dire predictions, Joe. Remember, we were given travel papers.
I still have mine.
because
Yeah,
nobody
that's
was
right.
going to be allowed to travel.
That's right.
I mean, that was serious. That messed me up.
Yep.
Then I'm going to have to show my papers at 4 a.m. when I'm going to work.
And that's, I guess, why so many people were turned off initially, is because it was the fear. Because fear can be very powerful, and it was. I was, given.
I knew I was going to die from this. I absolutely knew it.
But
I
how
knew
did
it.
the fear become the diminishing of the Cafe Society, for example, which virtually shut down because of COVID, and then suddenly found itself having to remain shut down because of crime.
And that's why.
Because of crime.
Because so many people didn't trust it. Because why was it okay that I went into a Target with 10,000 people on a Saturday afternoon, but I couldn't take my family to 30 Bales for lunch?
What the hell was that all about?
Or my kids couldn't play baseball that summer. Are you kidding me?
And we were still seeing it right up until yesterday when you couldn't go into a restaurant.
But today you can. Today you can.
But you couldn't yesterday. It wasn't safe.
But you could drive to Hopkins and go to 30 Bales, no problem. What the hell is that?
Exactly.
My question is, was the fear and the closing of everything based in reality, or was it an opportunity that they took? I don't think they're smart enough to take that opportunity to shut down the country and change the American way of life. I can't give them that much credit.
No, but it certainly aided and abetted the mystery. I'll tell you something shocking. The CP is tired of this BS.
What?
That's shocking to me. And she's been an adherent and a believer in everything. And
Does she still blame Trump?
oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
But
I just want to make sure she's okay.
but she's been talking back and forth with the kids in Chicago, and they're warning her, "Don't come. We might have it here." And she's saying, "The hell with it. I'm over it. I'm done. I'm done worrying about it."
And you're encouraging her to go.
Well, no, I even said, "Are you sure you want to go?" And she's done with it. She's convinced she's had it.
See? Okay.
And she's vaccinated and masked up and on my case in California every time I didn't have a mask on entering a place. Put your mask on. Okay.
I'm playing golf.
I didn't have it on outside.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yes, John. You look like you want to yell at me again. Go ahead.
I don't know.
Okay.
No. I have been looking up some stats, though, that, well, never mind. It's
No,
a whole
I wanna
different
hear
part
it.
of the argument. Well, the part of the argument I don't get, Chris's thing about everybody, dying from a different cause, not from COVID. If that were true, our death rate wouldn't be any different, would it?
What do you mean?
Well, wouldn't the death rate have stayed the same through these 2 years?
No, the death rate,
if they're not dying from COVID.
the death rate would stay the same, but I think if I can translate what Chris is saying, you die of a heart attack, but you also had COVID, so immediately COVID is to blame for the heart attack when and it's not the lifestyle the person.
Then
But I actually- and
the
I-
death rate should stay the same then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it hasn't.
Well, you know what the historians have to unearth? The historians will have to unearth how many of the hundreds of thousands of deaths were elderly people treated poorly, in my estimation, in their senior living accommodations.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
How many that were going to die anyway, unfortunately?
So you're saying, John, that the rise in the death rate is directly linked to COVID.
Well,
And you're not necessarily arguing the fact that he died of a heart attack, but he also, P.S., by the way, had COVID?
I think okay, well, that's an example I think probably is somewhat rare.
Let me help Kenny, because I know somebody that went through that same situation. She did pass away, and she happened to have COVID, but her death was listed as death from COVID. And
Okay.
I know the family. They said she didn't die from COVID,
Now,
but that's the way it was listed.
Again, if we can believe what you guys are telling me, the death rate should not raise then. We should have the same number of deaths we've always had in the U.S. In 2020, it went up 17%, the first year of COVID. Last year, we have no final figures, but they figure it's in the 20%.
Oh, you'll remember a question I asked at the beginning of the show. How do you reconcile those deaths with finding such folly in the rulemaking?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
that's the question. Yep.
Because the deaths are real. The disease is horrible.
And they're extra, I don't mean extra deaths, but they're extra deaths. They would not have occurred
I know,
without COVID.
I know what you're saying.
Chris, John is right.
I know what you're saying.
Chris, you're right. John, you're right.
If I had, okay, we always used Kenny and I as examples because we had the heart thing when this first started. So if I had gotten COVID, I would have been more susceptible to dying if there were no vaccines at the time I got it. I did get COVID, but then I'd already had the vaccines.
Right.
But if
And
I
I'm
would have
assuming
gotten,
that helped.
if I would have gotten COVID before the vaccines, COVID may have got me, but it was my lifestyle that really killed me.
But without the COVID there, you'd have probably lived
I'd
another
still
5
be-
years. you know.
Yeah, or 2.5.
Okay,
But yeah,
2.5 years.
Yeah, you're right, John. Yeah.
You know, I will go. I'm sorry, Ken. Go ahead.
We're still not to the bottom of the restrictions, like Joe said.
Yeah, that's the
The
linchpin
one
of
thing I
everything.
would like to urge all listeners to do is, based on our last 20 minutes of conversation, send all of your emails to rookie@garagelogic.com.
I don't think we've said anything to unleash a firestorm.
All we've done is talk circles.
Yeah, we're talking circles, and I have not solved the rhetorical question that I've been playing with in my head, and that is, why are the decline of American cities so closely associated with the time frame of COVID?
Do you think
this
it
was
could
all
be
brewing under.
coincidence?
Yeah, maybe. I think it was all brewing underneath anyway, and it was just a good opportunity for the young and dumb and uneducated to come out and start burning buildings down.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then
but
when
I mean,
the
look
Floyd
who's-
thing happened, boom.
Look who's
you know.
running these cities.
Yeah,
Terribly incompetent
Morons.
people.
yeah.
And
when we-
I can't say that that's because of COVID.
No, but and then when we bring that up, they get louder.
And you always had said, too, from the outset, whether it's Walls or Fry or Carter, whoever, they didn't ask for this.
I know they did.
True.
No.
However, their lack of how to deal with this proves their incompetence.
Well, the only thing I'd say about that is their being unsure of themselves in handling it is manifested by the frequent changes in mandates. In other words, as we said, yesterday at noon, I had to show a card to get in a restaurant. Today, I don't.
Nope.
So I do find fault with this roaring inconsistency. And despite the Johns Hopkins study of lockdowns not working, there are plenty of studies that can corroborate the contention of the economists in the so-called Johns Hopkins study that can demonstrate statistically that the lockdowns didn't mitigate death from COVID to a statistically significant degree. So the lockdowns essentially didn't work, and you've got quite a scientific basis to say masks haven't worked. I just learned yesterday that cloth doesn't work.
Nope.
Put this one on. Okay. I was polite.
Were you
Okay.
going to bring up the thing I sent you earlier?
Children, people in America under 18 have more of a chance of drowning than dying from COVID.
That was a CDC
That's
report.
from the CDC. I went to the CDC site.
4 times more likely.
Well, I have it right here. And I don't know, is this germane to anything?
Well, we were talking about COVID. I thought you were going to bring that up. Sorry, if you were not planning on.
For children ages 1 to 14, drowning is the second leading cause of unintentional death and after motor vehicle crashes. COVID doesn't make the list. COVID doesn't make the list.
And that's why it makes people, I guess, like me, angry when you see politicians unmasked at a classroom with 30 kids that have to wear their mask all day for eight plus hours. That really makes me angry.
They're all holding their breath, Chris.
Yeah.
well, that's what they do in LA when
Newsom.
they pose for pictures.
Yeah, okay, Newsom. Oh, how great is that going to be, by the way, when we see all the unmasked at SoFi Stadium on Sunday?
Oh, God.
Are you aware that the Department of Homeland Security has issued a warning for Super Bowl Sunday
I saw that.
about the possibility of a trucker convoy somehow interfering with
Oh, I'm hearing Smoking the Bandit music, Kenny, aren't you?
Stadium?
Eastbound and down.
Oh, that would be
loaded up their
spectacular.
trucking.
Hey, why don't you